Have you ever wondered why poverty feels so hard to escape? Why some people work harder than everyone else, yet still remain stuck? The truth is, poverty is not just a lack of money. It is a system, a closed loop, a force, almost like gravity. And just like gravity keeps objects pinned to the earth, poverty creates an invisible pull that keeps millions of people trapped. This is what I call the physics of poverty. To escape it, you do not just need hope. You need force. You need momentum. You need what a rocket needs to leave the planet: escape velocity. Because the reality is this: if your income only covers survival, if every month feels like recovery from the last emergency, if stress controls your decisions, then you are not just broke. You are inside a system designed to keep you there. And that system is built on 5 hidden chains. If you understand them, you can begin to break them. Let's start with the first one. Chain number 1, the scarcity tax. When you are under constant financial stress, your brain changes. Poverty does not just affect your wallet. It affects your focus, your patience, your judgment, your ability to plan. When survival becomes the priority, long-term thinking becomes a luxury. You stop thinking about next year. You start thinking about today, about tonight, about this bill, about this meal, about this emergency. And that mental pressure comes at a cost. Scarcity reduces cognitive bandwidth. In simple terms, it makes decision-making harder. Not because poor people are less intelligent, but because stress consumes the very mental energy needed to make smart choices. This is why poverty often creates mistakes that make poverty worse. Late payments, bad loans, impulse choices, short-term decisions with long-term consequences. And then there is something even more brutal. Being poor is expensive. A rich person buys quality shoes once. A poor person buys cheap shoes again and again. Over time, the poor person spends more. This is sometimes called the Vimes boots theory. When you cannot afford quality, you are forced to pay repeatedly for low quality. Cheap goods, costly debt, emergency fees, penalty charges, 3 transport costs, higher interest. Everything becomes more expensive when you have less money. That is the scarcity tax. Poverty charges interest on pain. Now let's go to the second chain. Chain number 2, the dopamine trap. Stress needs relief. And when life feels heavy, spending can feel like medicine. A nice meal, a new outfit, a quick purchase, a little reward after a hard week. For a moment it feels good. It gives emotional relief. It creates a hit of dopamine, and that is the trap. Because the purchase is temporary, but the financial damage remains. This is how many people fall into cycles of debt, not because they are reckless, but because they are exhausted. Spending becomes emotional survival, a way to numb pressure, boredom, sadness, frustration, and hopelessness. But every emotional purchase delays freedom. Every comfort bought on borrowed money becomes another brick in the cage. The way out of this trap is painful, but powerful. It requires what some call monk mode, a season of radical discipline, a season where unnecessary spending is cut, a season where pleasure is delayed so power can be built. This does not mean never enjoying life. It means understanding that when you are financially trapped, comfort can become your captor. Sometimes freedom begins with sacrifice. Sometimes the fastest way forward is to remove everything that is quietly draining your momentum. Now let's look at the third chain. Chain number 3, the linear income trap. Most people are taught one formula for survival: work more, earn more, repeat 5. But there is a problem with that formula. Time is limited. And when you trade time directly for money, your income has a ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day, only so much energy in your body, only so many shifts you can take. Only so much overtime you can survive. That means no matter how hardworking you are, your income remains capped by your time. But expenses do not behave that way. Inflation does not care how tired you are. Rent keeps rising. Food keeps rising. Fuel keeps rising. Bills keep rising. So if your income grows slowly, but your costs grow constantly, you are running a race you were designed to lose. That is the linear income trap. The solution is to stop depending on one single skill in one single lane. The solution is skill stacking. That means combining multiple valuable skills that make you harder to replace. Maybe you learn sales and design, 6. Writing and marketing, editing and storytelling, coding and problem solving, teaching and technology. One average skill may not change your life, but multiple useful skills combined can create rare value, and rare value gets paid. The market rewards people who solve bigger problems in more powerful ways. The goal is not just to work harder. The goal is to become harder to ignore. Now let's move to the fourth chain. Chain number 4, social gravity. Your environment shapes your expectations. The people around you influence what feels normal. If everyone around you is surviving, struggling, complaining, and settling, then ambition begins to feel strange. Discipline begins to feel extreme. Growth begins to feel like betrayal. This is the crab bucket effect. If crabs are trapped in a bucket, any crab trying to climb out gets pulled back down by the others. Not always out of hatred. 7. Sometimes out of fear. Sometimes out of insecurity. Sometimes because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. And this happens in real life too. The moment you start changing, the moment you become more serious, the moment you say no to waste, the moment you think bigger, some people around you may resist you. Not because you are wrong, but because your movement challenges their comfort. That is why escaping poverty often requires a new tribe, a new environment, new voices, new ideas, new standards. And sometimes that tribe is not physical at first. Sometimes it is virtual, a community online, a mentor through content. 8. A network through books, podcasts, courses, and conversations. But one thing is certain. You cannot stay in a mindset that glorifies limitation and expect to build expansion. Your next level may require different people. And now the fifth chain. Chain number 5, the compound void. This may be the most dangerous chain of all, because while the poor are paying compound interest, the rich are earning it. Debt compounds against you. Assets compound for you. That is one of the greatest financial divides in the world. One group is charged for borrowing. The other is rewarded for owning. The poor buy liabilities. The rich buy cash flow. The poor consume. The rich accumulate. The poor make payments. The rich collect them. And over time the gap widens. 9. Because compound growth is slow at first, then unstoppable later. This is why wealth often looks invisible in the beginning. A small investment does not look dramatic. A single asset does not look life-changing. A tiny side income does not feel revolutionary. But over time, repeated ownership becomes power. This is the shift that must happen. You must move from consumer thinking to investor thinking, from spending to building, from impressing people to acquiring assets, from buying status to buying leverage. It starts small. Very small sometimes, but the direction matters more than the speed. Because once money starts working for you, instead of only leaving you, the laws begin to change. And that brings us to the final truth. Yes, the system is rigged. Yes, poverty is heavy. Yes, the forces are real. But the door is not locked. 10. The cage is open. Escape is possible. Not easy, not instant, but possible. Escape velocity happens when your assets generate enough cash flow to cover your basic survival needs. That is the moment survival stops depending only on your labor. That is the moment gravity weakens. That is the moment you begin to breathe differently, to think differently, to choose differently, to live differently. So, if you feel stuck right now, understand this: you are not weak. You are under pressure. But pressure can be studied. Pressure can be resisted. Pressure can be overcome. Break the scarcity cycle. Destroy the dopamine trap. 11. Escape the linear income model. Outgrow social gravity. Enter the world of compounding. And little by little, step by step, skill by skill, asset by asset, you build enough force to rise. Because poverty is not just financial. It is physical, psychological, social, systemic, but so is freedom. And once you understand the physics, you can finally begin your escape.